reverse this, so it's going to be a little... All right, so as we introduced ourselves, we're really interested in this concept called co-housing. We came across it only about a year ago, although we've been sort of mulling about housing and where we'd like to live someday for a number of years. It's something that's still relatively new to us, and we've been doing a lot of reading and chatting about what it is, and now I think we're ready to start to talk with other people about that. So that's what today's all about. This is where we live right now. This was taken just as we were moving in, and it's been a really fantastic place for us to live. One-bedroom apartment right in the middle of town with gardens and beautiful light. And we recognize that it's not likely to meet our needs into the long term. And this picture is here because we've lived in Bridgewater now for 3 years and are really starting to feel like it is where our community is. And these are some of the folks that put on the community Christmas dinner last year. And it's in 3 years we've met some really wonderful people, and it's starting to really feel like a place we want to be. Here's Bridgewater. It's on a beautiful river. I think, take it for granted that we have this amazing water course through our town, and also being so close to the ocean. It's also got a lot of amenities, and almost everything that we need we can find in Bridgewater. So while it has a lot to offer, it doesn't have a lot to offer in terms of the types of housing that are available there. In fact, Nova Scotia in general has fairly slim pickings when it comes to housing in terms of the diversity of types. There's single-family homes, apartments for rents, increasingly there's seniors housing options, but really not many other types, especially in rural Nova Scotia. So there's some potential there, and there's no sustainable housing or like more green architecture housing in Bridgewater other than a few single-family homes. Yeah. So we're like, well, if this is where we want to be and what we're interested in doesn't exist, maybe we should see what the potential would be for us to create that.
So basically we have some ideas around. We're going to get to the co-housing bit in a moment, but we have some ideas around why it's important, we feel, to think carefully about what kind of housing we're living in. And this is just our idea, but maybe you have other ideas. But maybe if you have similar ideas, then you could also find similar reasons as us for being interested in this. So, obviously, just taking things out onto like the big picture. We're going to be entering a future that's going to be very different from the past that we've been living in. We know that we're going to be living in a more resource-poor future, and largely to do with changes in the availability of oil and really big global things that are changing. So our question basically is, what can we do in order to live within our means in a future that's really different from our past? Obviously, this is the kind of development that's sprawling really quickly right now. There's an incredible amount of suburban development going on everywhere because it was seen as the ideal housing type for a whole generation or two. And that's really changing right now. And it's not the kind of housing type that we're really interested in, but that's been the dominant model. And one of the things that's going to really impact a lot of this is that transportation costs are going to go up really high in the near future. And we have a strong values around living in a place where everything is within a short distance of each other. So there's been a lot of books and things written, and things are going to change pretty fast. As I mentioned, transportation is probably the largest limiting factor in terms of impacting how people live, how we work, where we get our goods, and so on. So if we can find a way to live that relies on as little transportation as possible, that's probably the ideal kind of situation that we want to create for ourselves. People have written about this coming change and basically said that the impact that we're going to feel is that what's going to happen is that our world's going to get smaller, a lot smaller. The places that we go, the places that our food comes from, the places that we look for our amenities and things like that. And, as Cate and I were really thinking about this, we thought, well, it would be really great to live in a town, in an urban center, where there are already a lot of amenities present, because that's where they tend to cluster. And as the world gets smaller, then we'll be able to live in a little sustainable community as much as possible. This is in direct contrast to the big vision. If you talk to a lot of people about what the future has in store, they have a lot of things like this in mind often. There's a lot of ideas out there around how technology is going to create megacities and stuff like that. We really don't believe that future is really going to happen, just because of the way that our economy is changing and that our resources are shifting, and our climate and so on. Interestingly, in a lot of the models where you see these huge, technological cities developing, you also see all these slums developing and stuff like that. So we really want a vision where people are brought together in a lifestyle and a quality of life that works for as many people as possible. Finally, we have very strong environmental and ecological values, Cate and I, and so we would like to live in a way that minimizes our environmental footprint as much as possible. So that's a strong value in this project that we see a lot. The other thing, of course, that's happening, and Winifred, I think you made a really interesting point about this, is that society is changing. We have a lot of different kinds of people that we're living with in community today. Different ages are trying to get along. We have a very large senior population that's going to really become half our population within 10 years. So 60 and over. And so socially we're changing so much, and our housing forms haven't caught up with the way that our society is changing and the way people's needs are changing. So we really would like to work in a way, work with housing in a way that meets as many social needs as possible, while also, providing a space where we can build a community with people. So kind of in conclusion, maybe if we hadn't thought about these things, or if these ideas hadn't come to us, or we hadn't been working in the field that we are, a single-family home may have been the ideal for us, that we would have been looking forward to investing in and stuff like that, and calling our home. But we've really come to the point where, for us, we didn't really think that choice made a lot of sense. Even though it's a perfectly great place to live, and many of us grew up in single-family homes, and that was a great experience. But we're really interested in trying something different. So, what we are kind of proposing here is a bit of a new vision for housing. And I know that this sounds kind of like a doctoral thesis here, but what we're trying to say is that we believe that as the world changes and as our society changes, we can redefine what it means to live in a healthy, sustainable community that has all of the healthy and ecological features built into it that we want to see in the world. So we believe, for example, that Bridgewater can become a sustainable, healthy community with the housing choices that we're looking for, and we want to be part of that movement into creating that more sustainable future. So here's our vision for this project, and these characteristics are a little bit like our core values. This is what we're bringing into this initiative right now. We want housing that is ecologically responsible, community-centered, values-based, and in an urban environment, because we really see our future being there. We want it to be close to amenities. We want it to have sustainable energy, have all of our transportation needs met close by. We can work with existing food systems, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. We want a high quality of life. We want to live in a community. And we want the project to be a demonstration for the kind of housing that we want to see developing in other areas too. So just a few more positive things about that, just to explain. This is actually Bridgewater's, a diagram from Bridgewater's plan for a walking cycling community. So the town is actually working right now to make Bridgewater a place where you can walk and cycle to get everywhere that you need to. And that's a vision that we really resonate with, because that's the kind of environment that we want our children to grow up in and where we see ourselves as well. From that same plan, this is Bridgewater's, it's called the Active Transportation Plan, but what I wanted to point out were all these green bubbles. So every green bubble on this map is an amenity, a major amenity around town. And so our vision for the housing project is that, is that it would be as close to as many of these amenities as possible. So we can really just walk everywhere and potentially even, like live without a car or just share a car or something like that. So yeah, being close to where the action is great. We do love agriculture and sustainable food systems, but we made a bit of a conscious choice when we came up with this project idea that we didn't necessarily want to be out in the rural areas. We have a lot of friends who really love the idea of farming the land, working the land, doing forestry, doing agriculture. Because our vision is more urban, we want to integrate with things like the community garden, where we can grow some of our own food. And then, I'll talk about it a little bit more, but maybe even have like a large, beautiful commercial kitchen built right into the development where we can actually can and preserve our own stuff and things like that, so that we can